Hey, everybody out there in Parents for Public Schools land. This is Kylene, the Executive Director of Parents for Public Schools of Pitt County. Hopefully, several of you have seen that this afternoon we want to celebrate the end of week 2 of virtual learning by chatting a little bit with Betsy Flanagan, the chair of our Board of Education. So I've got Betsy here on my computer. If you were with me earlier in the week with Virginia Gaynor, you noticed that I'll have my phone turned around to see the computer. We're just figuring things out around here. Everybody's doing the same thing. So same format as we did earlier this week with Virginia Gaynor. But I'm going to go ahead and introduce Betsy Flanagan, as long as I can. There we go. Awesome. So this is Betsy Flanagan. She is the chair of our Board of Education. Welcome, Betsy.
Thank you, Kylene. I'm glad to be here with you.
Absolutely. Betsy, I'm going to remind you that Facebook Live recording my computer needs some loud voices. So just make sure you speak really loudly when you answer, okay?
You got it.
All right.
Move it closer.
Awesome. So, Betsy, you're a graduate of our Parents for Public Schools Parent Engagement Program. And in that program, we talk a lot about the difference between involvement and engagement. And examples of that have really changed in the past few weeks. So I wonder if you have seen personally just any examples that stand out to you of ways that parents have remained engaged during a time that it seems like it could be difficult to do so.
Yes, actually, I don't know if you can see on the wall behind me is my plaque from my PEP class.
I love it.
It says that I graduated, so I did pay attention about parent engagement, and yes, parents' engagement over the last several weeks has changed dramatically compared to what it was before COVID-19 for many of us. Obviously, Pitt County Schools has a lot of resources to manage technology inside of our schools. Pitt County Schools has an army of qualified educators managing the instruction inside of our schools. We have amazing child nutrition staff who are managing food feeding inside the schools every day. We have lots of students who are getting special needs and therapies inside of our schools every day. But when school closed and we weren't inside of our school walls anymore, I think it drove parent engagement to a whole new level. Now we are all managing our technology in our home. We are trying to manage maybe more hands-on the instruction that our children are receiving. So obviously there's an increased level of engagement just on a one-to-one basis with our children and our teachers. I think during this time we also have developed a better understanding of who's responsible for what as it relates to public education. And decisions and policies and what the local Board of Education does, what the State Board of Education does, what the Department of Public Instruction does, because there have been so many decisions that have had to be made in new areas. So, that was another piece of the PEP curriculum was who's responsible for what in public education. In addition, I think that learning styles was another thing that we really learned about in parent engagement. And I think as parents now home with our children, we probably have a better understanding of the different learning styles that our own children have. And as parents, we're probably even more aware now of how our children learn than we were before. Obviously, I think communication is key. There's a lot of information that has been disseminated on the daily because it's changing so rapidly. There are decisions and messages that are coming from the state, messages that are coming from Pitt County Schools, messages coming from your school, from your students' many teachers, both their core instruction and their on-core classes. So I think as a result of the necessity for all of us to engage more due to the crisis that we find ourselves in and having to manage that, we're all going to have a better understanding of the inner workings of school.
Those were some amazing examples, Betsy. I think it's been really amazing for me to just watch parent engagement continue to happen and to happen in such different ways, but it's not gone. In fact, in some ways it's increased. So that's been really exciting. So I wonder what you would say from your perspective as a board member has been the most challenging thing for families in Pitt County schools. And I think most people are hearing you okay, but a couple people are not, so yell at me.
Okay, I'm going to try to speak louder. And I'm going to apologize if I get too close to my computer. Nobody probably wants to see that.
Oh, we all want to see you. Absolutely.
Okay. So I do think that probably the most challenging aspect for families, at least for my family, has been finding that balance. All of our lives have been disrupted by COVID-19 at the same time. We all have dramatically different life situations that we're trying to manage. Many of us find ourselves trying to manage working from home. Many people are still going to work because they're essential workers and they're having to manage the childcare of their children. Unfortunately, many people have lost their jobs and they're trying to navigate the unemployment process. Certainly, there are fears that are surrounding our health and the health of our loved ones. There's a tremendous financial burden that many of us are facing. So there's just a lot of disruption and uncertainty. And with change and uncertainty comes fear. And so it's just an all-around stressful and scary time for all of us. And so as a school system, I think we want to help parents as much as we possibly can by continuing to provide instruction, by offering a familiar connection, by providing assistance with meals. Because I think when we can provide these services that are familiar, although they look different and they feel different now than they did when school was in session, I'm hopeful that we are providing one small bit of consistency in an environment that none of us have much control over.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been quite the interesting time to navigate. And I think there's been a lot of challenges, but also a lot of solutions that have been developed. Just want to acknowledge some of our folks watching. We have lots of folks on here with us who are just saying hello, and many folks are just saying thank you for everything that Pitt County Schools is doing. So I just wanted to make sure to acknowledge that. So, I've seen a lot over the past couple weeks that Pitt County Schools is doing, and I probably see it on a more intimate level than some folks do. And so I wonder if you could share, because not everyone knows, what's something the schools have done in the past few weeks that you have just been tremendously proud of?
I think I'm the most proud of the teamwork that we have seen come into play over these last several weeks. We've had to divide and conquer. We've had to think outside the box. We've had to reinvent the way that we deliver school, and we had to do it in a really short amount of time. I think when we left school on Friday, March the 13th, we intended to be back in school on Monday. But by Saturday afternoon, the very next day, the governor had announced that schools were closed immediately. Dr. Linker and his senior staff and the instructional team, I think they assembled that Sunday morning. And by late Sunday afternoon, the board was being briefed on a plan to continue instruction for our students. And I think we missed one day of feeding on that Monday. But by Tuesday, we were doing grab-and-go lunches. And by Wednesday, we were putting meals on buses. We had bus routes that were made up, and we were delivering meals out into the community. We had provided packages for families to download or pick up from their schools so that they could continue doing review. And all that happened in such a very short amount of time. I think the word that our public information officer used recently in an email to me was strengths-based leadership. We have so many specialists. We're very fortunate in Pitt County who they join together to deliver and create some really relevant content. We have instructional coaches who had to step up and began training teachers to deliver instruction in a whole new manner. We do have some teachers in Pitt County who are used to delivering instruction remotely, but that's a very small percentage of our total group of instructional leaders. Teachers had to begin creating new ways to deliver instruction. School nutrition people had to mobilize. They even had to leverage, and Kylene, you helped with this, a shortage of supplies of available materials that they needed to be able to provide to-go lunches, because that was new to them. We were serving kids in a lunch line in a cafeteria, and now we had to find all these to-go boxes and wraps. So they had to step up, and we had to join together to help them out. Principals had to manage their personnel in their buildings in a whole new manner. Bus drivers began driving new routes to do meal deliveries. Custodians began a whole new protocol of cleaning. Teacher assistants began to assist with whatever needed to be done, and the list goes on and on. But everyone, and I mean everyone, fell together to figure something out that was completely new. And I have so much pride, and I'm so pleased with what we've been able to accomplish in a very short amount of time. In fact, Pitt County Schools is a leader, and we're very fortunate because we have this expertise that there are several other counties across the state who don't have the same resources that we have, and they were able to use some of the material that our people created. So it wasn't just that we were creating this for our own students. We have a larger footprint that we've been able to positively impact here in North Carolina. But at the end of the day, our kids in Pitt County are our top priority. And we're going to do whatever we can with every ounce of resource that we have available to continue to meet the obligation that we have to the students in Pitt County.
Thank you so much, Betsy. I think that makes all of us proud to be Pitt County parents and community members. We have several people here with us that are still just saying thank you for everything that's happening. A question hasn't come in yet, just lots of thanks. So thank you for all the information that you're sharing. You know, you just mentioned some other counties, and a lot of people have been really, really thankful for the meals that have been provided in Pitt County, those breakfasts and lunches. And one question I've heard a lot recently is that other counties have had to start canceling that meal distribution program. And folks are wondering if Pitt County Schools is going to do the same thing. So I know things are always changing, but as of today, what's the plan for meals in Pitt County?
Yeah, so obviously I have respect for other districts and the decisions that they've had to make. Here in Pitt County, we have no plans of closing meal distribution anytime soon. As long as we have labor, and we're trying very hard to keep our cafeteria staff and our meal delivery staff safe and healthy. In fact, you've also been an assistance to us in trying to obtain masks for them to wear as they are going out and delivering meals into the community and preparing meals in our schools. And so we are working very hard to make sure that we're keeping our labor healthy so that they can continue preparing and delivering meals. Obviously, there's a lot to manage with the supply chain, both of food and materials, and the logistics of getting those meals out delivered. I think we're having to tweak that changes, but we're trying to figure it out so that we can keep that going. And we will continue to provide meals as long as we have all of those important elements in place, and we're working very hard to keep them. I think we're doing about 16,000 meals a day is what we're providing. Wow. And that's been over 250,000 meals to date that have been served to the kids, to the children in Pitt County. So obviously, that's a really large number. So that tells us that there's a big need in our community, and we have every intention of continuing to meet that need.
And I think some information went out from Pitt County Schools today about spring break, but is it true that for spring break, the buses will continue to deliver meals, but the grab-and-go sites will be closed next week?
That's right. So Friday, tomorrow, and Easter Monday, next Monday, there will be no meals.
Okay.
So no grab and go, no bus delivery on those 2 days. We're going to give our cafeteria staff a little bit of time off so they can spend some time with their families as well. But beginning on Tuesday, there are going to be some changes. So all of the grab and go locations will stop. So if you've gone up to a school to pick up a lunch for your children, you won't be able to do that during spring break. However, our school buses we've added a couple buses and several new routes. And so all of those routes are now listed on the Pitt County Schools website. So we're going to have more buses going into more communities. And I would just encourage everyone to go and look at those routes. Find a bus stop that's near you. And instead of driving to your local school, drive to one of those bus stops and get your meal there.
Okay, perfect. So just to recap, no meals from buses or schools tomorrow or Monday. And then buses will deliver meals Tuesday through Friday of next week. And then I think it's fair to say that each week we can update about the next week, but things are changing so much that we'll just focus on next week for now. Yeah.
That's right. Thank
you. So one exciting thing that I keep hearing about is WNCT and the CW. Tell me about this TV show that's happening, and when is it happening, and who is it for, and all the good things.
Yes, I'm so excited about this TV opportunity. I mean, who knew in the world of public education that our public information officer would be producing television shows? Like, everybody's jobs have just changed dramatically, and I'm so proud of this additional opportunity. Obviously, Pitt County Schools has a lot to address with the issue of equity since schools closed. And so we are trying to reach students in whatever way possible that we can, because we know that everyone's access is different here in Pitt County. And so WNCT actually reached out to a fellow board member, I think it was Anna Barrett Smith, with an offer to provide some assistance and maybe provide some airtime to us if we wanted to use their airtime to deliver some instruction to our students. So people began to brainstorm within Pitt County Schools and figure out, how could we do this? And I think there was a very generous offer from a local business who stepped up to sponsor that airtime. And so I think it's called, and I'm looking at my notes, the Eastern Carolina Education Connection was born. So that show will begin to run on April 13th. It will run Monday through Friday from 12 to 12:30 on WNCT's sister station, which is called the CW, which is channel 9.2. So those are the details about the show. Now, teachers are obviously already providing excellent content online. So the Education Connection is an attempt to collect some of those excellent lessons and put them together in an engaging format for television. And the target audience is going to be kindergarten through second or third grade. And while the focus is primarily on literacy, I think teachers are going to be reading books and presenting relevant lessons based on those books. There's going to be some home application as a part of that. I think I saw a preview, and I actually got shared the first episode, but I haven't been able to watch it yet, so I can't say for sure, but I did see a preview on WNCT's site that I think there's going to be a little project that students can do. The very first book that they're reading is The Very Hungry Caterpillar, and I saw something about maybe making a caterpillar. So there are going to be some offerings that allow learning to extend beyond just the television show. And finally, the show focuses on the whole child. So I think there's going to be some PE coaches who are going to provide some physical activity for the kids to do, a wiggle break. And there's going to be a counselor's corner component to it, because obviously there are some social and emotional needs during this uncertain time that we're going to try to help our students deal with. So it also just provides one more additional connection and familiarity for students to see their teachers and their media coordinators and their PE coaches and their counselors. So I have a lot of sincere admiration for WNCT and for their willingness to reach out and offer their airwaves for us to continue to reach students, and to the Ricci Law Firm who offered to sponsor this.
Thank you. I think that's going to be a great opportunity. And you may have said this, but just for clarification, that is mainly focused on the K2 grade level. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it's really geared towards students in kindergarten through third grade.
Okay, K3. Okay, perfect. So one question that's come up to me a little bit, just in some conversations with other parents and community members, the board meeting made it very clear that seniors who are currently failing will be given every opportunity to pass the class through all sorts of different ways, teacher interviews, projects, portfolios. But what about juniors? And how does this affect the GPA for juniors and below as they move forward? And I realize some of this is a work in progress. And so whatever answer you've got for us, I think we're just interested to know where it is, even if it's changing.
Yeah, so we don't have real clear guidance on that just yet. School districts, the State Board of Education, DPI, are all working, and DPI is the Department of Public Instruction, are all working together to try to come up with policies and guidance to help all of the districts across the state of North Carolina. Obviously, there are rural districts in the easternmost part of the state and the westernmost part of the state, and what we're experiencing is different than maybe a more metropolitan area in the center of the state. So there's a lot of difference across the state and what local boards of education are experiencing during this time. In addition, I think we're all still holding out hope that we'll go back to school on May 18th. And so, if we get back to school on May 18th, that would be ideal. We can pick up instruction and run with it again. I can tell you that the State Board of Education did come out with some critical, I think they call it, I have their memo in front of me, critical factors for effective remote learning. And when this guidance came out, the State Board of Education said, okay, LEAs, which is what we are, local education authority, you can provide grades during this time to your students if you can meet these 5 critical factors for effective distance learning. And so the very first one is that you have to be able to provide remote learning that is accessible by all students, for which the learning is intended and is responsive to diverse learning groups. So as a board, we asked Dr. Linker to go to every one of our schools across the district and collect some data, which he has done, and I've seen some preliminary data on it, and it's going to be presented to our board at our work session the Monday after spring break. But basically, that data, I need to see data that says that all of our students are being engaged before I would be willing to before I would be willing to vote for us to give grades during this time. I've seen that data, and it doesn't say that 100% of our students are being engaged on a daily basis. In fact, it says that we haven't even been able to reach 100% of our students yet. And so I can't support giving grades during this time because we can't meet those 5 criteria the way that we're operating right now. Of course, we're going to continue to reach every student in every opportunity that we possibly can. So that answers some of that question. Mm-hmm. Now, if we go back on May 18th and we start learning, then, I would imagine that we would probably start grading again. And so I've had several friends who have said, hey, I have a teenager like you have a teenager. How are you keeping your kids engaged if they're not getting a grade? And I try to put it to them the same way I put it to my children, that you may have a teacher that assigns homework, and she may not, or he or she may not grade that homework. But you know that ultimately, if you do that homework, that you are going to do better on the test eventually. So this is like the homework stage that we're in. We are still trying to provide as much instruction as we can. We're trying to engage as many children as we can, because we know that if we can provide that exposure and that opportunity, then it's going to make our job when we get back to school so much better. So I am sensitive. I know the questions that people have as it relates to GPA. I don't have answers for you yet. In fact, if we don't go back to school on May 18th, I think the state has said that they're going to make that decision for us. And we don't know what that's going to look like just yet. So That's a really long-winded answer to say We don't really know. We're not grading right now. We are trying to engage as much as possible and provide as much exposure as possible. I will say that this is an encouragement that I got a phone call from a State Board of Education member, Wendell Hall, and he was asking a lot of really detailed questions about what we're seeing in Pitt County. So I do think that the state is reaching out to all of the local boards of education to get a better understanding of what we're seeing here on the front lines to help better inform their decision making.
Thank you, Betsy. I know those are difficult questions to answer. I hope that we all remember that not only are you the chair of the board, but you are the parent of 3 Pitt County School students, and you have all the same concerns of us do. So I appreciate your transparency there. Our last question, you mentioned grades and we mentioned seniors, and seniors are on a lot of people's minds. So as of right now, we're going back to school May 18th and graduations are happening and lots of celebrations, but we all know that that could change. So if there were to be a change and we were not to go back to school this year, are there thoughts about how to create meaningful graduation experiences, and where are you all with those thoughts?
Yeah, those are all really good questions. In fact, I was waiting in line at Sam's Club yesterday, and the person behind me was very upset because she had heard that Pitt County Schools was canceling graduations. That is not true. Right now, we have a lot of issues that we are trying to focus on at hand right now. And it includes figuring out how to feed our students across the county, how to continue delivering instruction. However, of course, we are having discussions regarding graduation. Our entire community is facing tough decisions right now as it relates to funerals and weddings and birthday parties. And of course, Pitt County Schools is no different. We have a lot of big celebrations that are coming up in our headlights, right? We have them up in front of us, and we're hopeful that we will continue to be able to have graduations. I know several high schools have tried to reschedule their proms, so they have them on the calendar, maybe at different venues. So I think we are all holding out hope that we will be able to have those special events. I have a senior myself. My fellow Board of Education member, Anna Barrett Smith, has a senior. Dr. Linker has a senior. And there's nothing more than we want than to watch our students walk across that stage at Minges and get their diploma. So believe me, I want to do everything possible to figure out a way to have a meaningful graduation for all of our students. Now, at the end of the day, I think a lot is going to depend on what happens with the governor's order about gatherings. So, if he says at the end of April that you can't get together and gather, then, we're going to have to regroup. Ideally, we wouldn't want to cancel graduations. If we had to postpone it, I think we would have that discussion. If we had to do something digitally, we would have that discussion. I think some of the yearbook companies are already starting to come up with creative ways that, alternative ways that you can do graduation. I'm not sure if Dr. Linker was joking or not, but he even said maybe we could get a golf course and golf carts and kids drive through. So I'm still holding out hope that we have the graduation that we all anticipate with students walking across the stage at Minges. I'm determined to have a special graduation for our seniors. But we're just going to have to wait and see what transpires over the next several weeks before we can really, make some good hard plans. Oh, and of course, I do have to mention that ECU. So ECU hosts our graduations. So we're obviously going to have to stay in touch with ECU and what they'll allow as well.
Right. I think wait and see is a key term right now. So we appreciate you all as the Board of Education and all of our Pitt County Schools staff living in that wait and see moment and reacting and being proactive every single chance you get. And every time the tables turn, you've been amazing at responding. So we had a lot of people join us today. What I'll say to everyone out there in Facebook land is please share this. I know there are lots of folks who did not see it who would like to see it. So please share this so it gets viewed more. Betsy, thank you so much for being here with us today. Your face was front and center on our Facebook Live the whole time. So hopefully people got some really great information from you. I just really appreciate you being willing to be open and transparent with our community. And I thank you for your leadership.
Thank you, Colleen. Thank you for having me. And I just would like just one last plea to everybody out there. This information and the decisions that we have to make in the environment that we're making decisions in changes so very rapidly. It could be by the end of the day today, the governor comes out with some other guidance. I know the State Board of Education was meeting at, I think, 2:30 this afternoon. Mm-hmm. So even by the time this hits the airwaves, there may be a plan in motion that we're going to have to react to, and everything that I just told you has to be changed. So I just ask for everyone's patience and grace, and just know that we love our students here in Pitt County. We are trying to share information as quickly as possible. And as leaders, we are having to stay very flexible and react very quickly to the conditions that are changing around us, and really do appreciate the support of all of you out there.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And I just want to say thank you to those of us who joined us today, and just reiterate how incredibly important it is that you share this. There were about 19 of you who joined us today, but I know that there's a lot more folks out there who want this information. So just make sure that you share it. And my plan is on the last day of each school week to just have a 3:30 chat for parents to share successes and ways that you've been engaged and victories that you experienced with online learning. So I hope that you'll join me each Friday around 3:30 for a Facebook Live to encourage each other as parents, as teachers, as administrators. We all move through this time in the most positive way possible. Thanks for joining us today, and we won't see you next week because it's spring break, but I'll see you the week after. Have a great one.